spirulina, and carotenes. Beta-carotene, alpha-carotene, astaxanthin, lutein, lycopene, quercetin, and much more. Save your money, save your time. Compare, and you'll find that there is no more researched or superior product available on the market today. Call now and get your discount prices on your next Bio Superfood at 303-257-7576, 303-257-7576, or biosuperfood@hotmail.com.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Tom Phillips, founder of the Green Herb.
All of God's people have a ministry, and it's a trick of our enemy to keep God's people sick and worn out to hinder their ability to minister. We are often judgmental toward people who are addicted to booze, cigarettes, and drugs, but we at the Green Herb have found that most of God's people are unknowingly addicted to the two most addictive products in America, sugar and soda pop. If you have a sickness or disease, or if you're just tired a lot, the Green Herb has an herbal product that is formulated just for you, and it's just $15.95. Come by the Green Herb, located in Wheat Ridge, Colorado, on the I-70 Frontage Road North, 1 mile west of Kipling, or call 888-765-HERB. That's 888-765-4372, or go to our website, www.thegreenherb.com, and be sure to listen to the Green Herb Show with Linda and Dr. Cass every Tuesday at 1 o'clock on KHNC.
My friends, even the Beatles understood government's appetite for taxes when they sang so long ago, if you drive a car, I'll tax the street. If you try to sit, I'll tax your seat. If you get too cold, I'll tax the heat. And if you take a walk, I'll tax your feet. My name is Howard Riell, and this is Real Truth. You're listening to the American Freedom Network, streaming live around the world at AmericanNewsNet.com and on Facebook and on YouTube and now on RealTV.com. And in the book, Real Truth, Stay Angry. And, of course, as always, broadcasting out across the Colorado Front Range on KHNC, Johnstown, Colorado, 1360 AM, The Lion. Our call-in number, 877-254-7524. Item from the Washington Examiner, Michael Barone, holding court. I quote, the Supreme Court's 5-4 decision upholding the Obama administration's health care legislation was a victory for the president, his administration, and his party. Their most ambitious legislative achievement has not been nullified, and they are not left in obvious disarray. But it is only a partial victory, and in some ways not a victory at all, both in the short run electorally and in the long run in terms of the constitutional order. Politically, Obamacare, as its critics call it, remains highly unpopular. It's possible the court decision will boost its support, but unlikely. Most voters want this law repealed. Mitt Romney and the Republicans want to repeal it. Barack Obama and the Democrats want to preserve it. It's not a winning issue for the incumbent. Constitutionally, many conservatives are unhappy that Chief Justice Roberts and the 4 justices generally considered liberal, voted to uphold the mandate to buy health insurance as a tax, which Congress is clearly empowered to levy. But the fact remains that the majority of 5 justices, including Roberts, also declared that Congress's power to regulate commerce does not authorize a mandate to buy a commercial product. This will tend to bar further expansion of the size and scope of the federal government. Moreover, the Constitution's limits on congressional power have now become, for the first time in 7 decades, a political issue. They're likely to remain one for years to come. This would not have been true had the constitutional case against the mandate been advanced by Washington lawyer David Rivkin, Georgetown law professor Randy Barnett, and many others. They did not quite prevail in the Supreme Court, but they changed not only the legal but also the political debate in a way almost no one anticipated 3 years ago. Unhappy conservatives grumble that Congress can get around the declaration that a mandate is beyond Congress's enumerated powers by labeling it a tax or just by relying on 5 justices declaring it one. But there's usually a political price to pay for increasing taxes. That's why Barack Obama swore up and down that the mandate was not a tax. It's why Democratic congressional leaders did not call it one. Roberts' decision undercuts such arguments now and in the future. Members of Congress supporting such legislation will be held responsible this year and for years to come for increasing taxes. And the Constitution's provision that tax bills must be originated in the House of Representatives means that the party controlling the House can effectively block such measures. That will be an argument for American congressional candidates for the indefinite future. It should not be forgotten that the Supreme Court did overturn part of the Obamacare legislation, the provision allowing the federal government to cut off states from all Medicaid funding if they refuse to vastly expand Medicaid eligibility as the legislation requires. Here, another novel legal argument advanced by Vanderbilt law professor James Bloomstein found favor with the majority of the justices. The idea is that Congress can't use the leverage of partial federal funding to force the states to increase the size and scope of government. This seems like a principle that could work powerfully against the big government policies. Medicaid has been vastly expanded over the years in this manner. Now the court seems to be saying that that game is over. The court's decision elicited sighs of relief from the White House. The president's entire administration is not in disarray, but the basic assumptions that he brought to office have proven unwarranted. Obama followed the New Deal historians in portraying history as a story of progress from minimal government to big government, and in arguing that economic distress would make Americans more supportive of big government policies. The unpopularity of Obamacare and the stimulus package have proven the latter assumption wrong. Most Americans are skeptical about the supposedly guaranteed benefits of centralized big government programs. And history does not move in one direction toward big government, even if it did from 1929 to 1945. Mercantilism was replaced by free trade in the 19th century. New Deal regulation by deregulation in the 1970s and 80s. The Supreme Court's decision, while upholding Obamacare, tilts the legal and political playing field away from big government more than anyone anticipated 3 years ago, and probably for years to come. Unquote. Item from the Business Insider. Many Americans are furious that Obamacare will require them to buy health insurance. Most of these folks seem to hate the idea that Obama is forcing them to do something more than they hate the idea of shelling out money. But of those who also care about the money, here are the details. The good news is that for most people, the penalty tax for those who choose not to buy health insurance will cost a lot less than health insurance. As with everything tax-related, there's no simple answer to how much is the Obama penalty tax, but here are some key points from factcheck.org. The penalty/tax will be phased in from 2014 to 2016. The minimum penalty/tax in 2016 will be $695 per person and up to 3 times that per family. After 2016, these amounts will increase at the rate of inflation. The minimum penalty/tax per person will start at $95 in 2014 and then increase through 2016. No family will ever pay more than 3 times the per-person penalty, regardless of how many people are in the family. The $695 per person penalty is only for those who make between $9,500 and $37,000 per year. If you make less than $9,500, you're exempt. If you make more than $37,000, your penalty is calculated by the following formula. My friends, I won't go through it. Basically, you're looking at penalties of approximately the following at the following income levels. Less than $100 income, $0. $9,500 to $37,000, $695. $50,000 income equals $1,000 in tax. $75,000 income, $1,600. $150,000 in income, $3,500 in penalty. $200,000 in income, $4,700 in penalty. The IRS will collect the penalty tax, a fact that will no doubt further enrage those who hate Obamacare. My friends, that includes me. I hope it includes you. It's Real Truth. We're starting out with bad news, but relax, it's going to get worse.
Now, this is the testimony of John when the Jews sent priests and Levites from Jerusalem to ask him, "Who are you?" He confessed and did not deny, but confessed, "I am not the Messiah." And they asked him, "What then? Are you Elijah?" He said, "I am not." "Are you the prophet?" And he answered, "No." The Gospel of John, chapter 1, verse 19 through 21.
We, the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity, to ordain and establish this Constitution.
Restore Health and Counseling salutes the men and women in uniform who've answered the call for our freedoms. Let's give them the hero's welcome they deserve, as they have fought hard to restore peace. America's troops are our angels of protection, so stand up and salute them proudly. That's from Restore Health and Counseling at 4705 Paris Street, serving Northeast Denver with complete substance abuse counseling for adolescent to adult and for private as well as professional drug, alcohol screening and treatment and rehabilitation. Visit us at www.rhctherapy.com or call 303-373-1188.
Whether you're in automotive, sporting goods, hardware, health, wellness, electrical, electronics, construction, carpet cleaning, legal, or animal care, and offer exceptional customer service and provide quality services or goods, you're honest, reliable, and professional. If you have a business, we have the customers. Let us put you in touch with our loyal, supportive, and dedicated listeners today. They're waiting to hear from you. It's inexpensive. It's effective. Call KHNC at 1-800-205-6245.
My friends, if the Obamacare law is a tax, as the Supreme Court says it is, well, taxes can be repealed. Here from Fox News Sunday is Chris Wallace talking to Senator Mitch McConnell about doing exactly that. Let's listen in.
View of this week's big decision on Obamacare. Joining us now from his home state of Kentucky is Senate Republican leader Mitch McConnell. And Senator, welcome back.
Good morning.
You just heard White House Chief of Staff Jack Lew say the court has spoken. It's time to move on. Are you persuaded?
Well, he's doing the best he can with a really tough situation. The president said it was not a tax. The Supreme Court, which has the final say, says it is a tax. The tax is going to be levied, 77% of it, on Americans making less than $120,000 a year. So it's a middle-class tax cut, tax increase. Beyond that, Chris, the core of the bill, it's worth reminding people, is $500 billion in cuts to Medicare. That's hospitals, nursing homes, home health care, and the like. A $500 billion tax increase. The Congressional Budget Office says it is also a job killer. It will cost the economy between 800,000 and 1 million jobs. This is the single worst piece of legislation that's been passed, certainly in modern times, and it will be an issue, a big issue, in the fall election. I think the Chief Justice basically said this is up to the American people to decide. We've got one last chance here to defeat Obamacare. We can do that in the November election.
Now, since the Supreme Court Justice, Chief Justice Roberts, came out with his ruling declaring that the mandate is actually a tax, you have been hammering the president for imposing a new tax on the middle class. But Mitt Romney has a mandate in his Massachusetts health care reform plan, and the people in Massachusetts paid more than $20 million last year in that mandate, penalty, tax, whatever you want to call it. So isn't that a Romney tax on the middle class?
Well, I have two thoughts there. Number one, that was a Massachusetts decision, not a national decision. And number two, every single every Democratic senator voted for Obamacare. It passed with not a vote to spare. Every single Democratic incumbent on the ballot this November was the deciding vote to pass this bill. This law is deeply unpopular with the American people. These Senate races across America will indeed be a referendum on this job-killing, health care tax-increasing measure.
But if I may, sir, I mean, you didn't answer my direct question. If the Obama mandate is a tax on the middle class, isn't the Romney mandate a tax on the middle class?
Well, I think Governor Romney will have to speak for himself about what was done in Massachusetts. I can tell you that every single Democratic senator voted for this tax increase and these $500 billion cuts in Medicare, and it will be a huge issue in 2012. As the Chief Justice has in effect said, this will be decided by the American people. That's why we have elections, and we'll have one the first Tuesday in November.
All right, let's move on. If voters elect a Republican president and a Republican Senate, your top priority will be, you say, to repeal and replace Obamacare. And I want to drill down into that with you.
Well, let's not drill down into it. Here's the takeaway, my friends. Obamacare has become a reality. We can make its ending a reality, too. Remember I like to say, no terrorists, no terrorism? No Obama, no Obamacare. Now, would Romney, as president, undo Obamacare? Well, he says he will. Is he telling the truth? Now we're getting to the heart of the problem. Item from the Business Insider. Well, Obamacare is now official, which means that a lot more people in the United States will have health insurance. Also means a lot more people will be paying more taxes. You didn't think Obamacare was free, did you? Here are some of the new taxes you're going to have to pay for Obamacare. A 3.8 surtax on investment income when your adjusted gross income is more than $200,000. 0.9% surtax on Medicare taxes for those making $200,000 or more. Let's see. A tax of 10% on indoor tanning services. This has been in place for 2 years since the summer of 2010. 40% tax on Cadillac health care plans starting in 2018. A medicine cabinet tax that eliminates the ability to pay for over-the-counter medicines from a pre-tax flexible spending account. A penalty tax for those who don't buy health insurance. A tax on medical devices costing more than $100. Those are some of the new taxes you'll be paying that will help pay for Obamacare. Any big ones I've missed? Note that these taxes are both progressive, aimed at rich people, and regressive, aimed at the middle class and poor people. The big ones, the 3.8% investment income hike and the Medicare tax increase, only hit you if you're making more than $200,000 a year. The rest hit you no matter how much you're making. Item from AFP. Israel sought a $1 billion IMF bridging loan for the Palestinian Authority earlier this year, but was turned down, an Israeli newspaper said Monday in a report confirmed to AFP by a senior Israeli official. Stop! What in the name of the Almighty is Israel doing looking to borrow $1 billion from the International Monetary Fund so they can give it to the so-called Palestinians? If there was any reality left, this would seem to sweep it aside. Palestinians hate Israelis. They hate Israel. They've worked tirelessly for 64 years to destroy it. They worked for decades before it was founded to make sure it never happened. And Israel wants to borrow $1 billion and give it to these self-same murderers and terrorists. I've got a better idea. If Israel wants to borrow $1 billion from the IMF, it may do so, and it may give the money to me. The next day, it may kick the Palestinians out of Israel. I think that's a pretty common sense way to proceed, don't you? I could certainly use the $1 billion. After all, we're going to have Obamacare now. And the Palestinians should have been kicked out a long, long, long time ago. Hundreds, if not thousands, of Israelis would still be alive had there never been Palestinians in the country. Let's move on. Item from WorldNet Daily by Colin Flaherty. If Chaim Amalek had his way, no one would know that mobs of black people are attacking and beating and robbing Jews in the New York area, or that they shout anti-Semitic epithets, or that they target Jews because, quote, they don't fight back, unquote. Such information can only serve to heighten racial tensions between these two groups, said Amalek, an alias for New York video blogger Luke Ford. Let us look beyond the issue of race, in any event a mere social construct, and instead celebrate our diversity, unquote. In this case, the New York Post saw a pattern most other media outlets never see. To some, it was jarring. Anti-Jewish crime wave, read the June headline about a series of recent anti-Semitic attacks. In the most disturbing incident, a mob of 6 black teenagers shouting "Dirty Jew" and "Dirty Kike" repeatedly bashed Mark Heinberg, 61, as he walked home from Temple in Sheepshead Bay in June. My friends, just as an aside, I used to live right next to Sheepshead Bay. Let's continue. This is one of several black mob attacks on and robberies of Jewish people in Brooklyn over the last 2 years, leaving broken bones and life-threatening injuries in their wake. The assaults are part of a large pattern in the New York area and around the country. Black mobs assaulting, robbing, destroying property, and creating mayhem, hundreds of times in more than 60 cities. Orthodox Jews may bear a disproportionate amount of the violence in New York, but the lawlessness that black mobs inflict throughout the area is not limited to Jews. Much of it is on YouTube. In February, 4 black people beat and robbed an Orthodox Jew in the New York suburb of Muncie. They were charged with hate crimes after it was determined they targeted the victim based on his religion. News accounts do not mention the fact, the race of the attackers, but the picture tells the story. In a 3-week period after Thanksgiving 2010, the same group of black people was charged in 3 separate episodes of targeting, beating, and robbing members of the Orthodox community. One of the victims, Joel Weinberger, spent 4 days in the hospital with broken bones and required 10 hours of surgery on his broken jaw and eye socket. Ford and others, such as MSNBC news anchor Melissa Harris Perry, say the media should not report news if it makes black people look bad. But most racial crimes and violence from black mobs in the New York area are usually not reported, not by the mainstream media anyway. Witnesses and others who know often find a way to drop a dime or a video or internet posting. Just a few days before the Heinberg beating, a group of students from a predominantly black school in a predominantly black neighborhood in Brooklyn were, quote, evicted from the 9/11 memorial site in Manhattan, quote, after they callously hurled trash into its fountains. The vile vandals from Junior High School 292 in East New York treated the solemn memorial, its reflecting pools honoring the nearly 3,000 people killed in the terror attacks, like a garbage dump, unquote. One of the students was found carrying ammunition. The story did not identify the race of the students. The picture for the article featured a young white person looking over the fountains. But people who posted comments to the story, many of whom said they lived near the school, identified the vandals as black, if only to defend them. The NYPD have destroyed enough young black lives, wrote poster Black Knight, BLAQUEKNYTE. I'd be willing to bet you didn't suggest jail for the little white suburban thugs who harassed that elderly bus matron to tears, which is a crime, by the way, unquote. Many of the commentators said the story should have identified the race of the miscreants, if only to protect the community from future mayhem. That was too much for, quote, Brooklyn-born, who said, quote, I am embarrassed for my fellow Americans who flaunt their racism so publicly. What they did was offensive, but the conditions of where we grew up compared to the wealth of Wall Street is also offensive. Stop! My friends, my parents, may they rest in peace, grew up in poverty. They grew up during the Depression, the Great Depression. My mother grew up in a family without a father. Her father was killed. Her mother was left alone. This is in the 1930s, raising 4 daughters all by herself. That's poverty. Don't you tell me for a minute that what passes for poverty today, and my friends, it ain't poverty. What passes for poverty today in any way, shape, or form justifies the kind of anger and violence and mayhem that we're seeing. It doesn't. Never has, never will. We'll continue. While New Yorkers continue to debate whether or not race has anything to do with crime or whether it should be reported, the list of racially violent and lawless episodes continues to grow. On May 12, black women taunted 2 teenage girls on the subway before hauling the girls off the subway, beating them and stealing one of their phones. The local NBC affiliate did not disclose the race of the mob, but it didn't have to. The attack was videotaped and posted on YouTube. On Staten Island in December, 2 police officers were hurt trying to control a mob of 50 black people attacking a single-family home. Firefighters finally dispersed the crowd with fire hoses to get them away from the officers. Several pictures and videos show some of the action. Last June, hundreds of black people rioted on Brighton Beach in an annual event called Brooklyn Queens Day. 4 people were shot, 1 killed. Much of it was posted on YouTube. My friends, I lived in Brighton Beach for many, many years. Item, according to the New York Post, the shootings didn't surprise neighbors who've gotten used to trouble on previous Brooklyn Queens days. These kids come not to swim, they come for turf fights, said Pat Singer, president of the Brighton Beach Neighborhood Association. By the way, I used to know Pat Singer. It's a problem every year. It's really hard on the businesses. All day long, all you'll see are hundreds of teenagers. Of course, you're going to have problems. In May of 2011, more than 24 black people went on a rampage, terrorized the Dunkin' Donuts. The swarm mob attacked patrons, destroyed the fixtures, and stole food, reported the Daily Mail, which published the story with pictures. A few months before, the same scenario unfolded at New York Wendy's. A mob of black people were fighting and destroying property, and a teenage employee was attacked and hospitalized with a concussion. Also, like the episode before, the New York Fox affiliate removed the videos from the attack from its website, but not before Hip Hop News 24/7 posted it. This is a long list. New York is a big city. My friend, there's more. There's much more. What does it mean? I leave it to you to decide. All I know is it's happening, it's real, it's the truth, and you have a right to know it. We'll be back.
Just a good old boy. Hi, I'm Eric Cedarstrup. For over a decade, I've been the CEO, shipping clerk, and janitor of the Patriot Trading Group. And in that time, I've made friends with tens of thousands of like-minded individuals all over this country, most like me, trying to raise a family, run a business, and make sense out of a world gone mad. I'm proud of the fact that through stock bubbles, housing bubbles, and financial chaos, our customers are prospering and doing very well. By keeping our prices fair and our service fast, we find that 80% of our customers not only reorder, but they tell their friends. Don't be fooled by hype and high pressure. Do business with a company you can trust. Call the Patriot Trading Group at 1-800-951-0592 or check out our website at allamericangold.com. You'll be treated with honesty and respect. You have my word on it. I'm Eric Cedarstrom, CEO, shipping clerk, and janitor.
Making their way the only way they know how.
And of his fullness we have all received, and grace for grace. For the law was given through Moses, but grace and truth came through Yeshua HaMashiach, Jesus the Christ. No one has seen God at any time. The only begotten Son, who is in the bosom of the Father, He has declared Him. The Gospel of John, chapter 1, verse 16.
No state shall enter into any treaty, alliance, or confederation, grant letters of marque or reprisal, coin money, emit bills of credit, make anything but gold and silver coin a tender in payment of debts, pass any bill of attainder, ex post facto law, or law impairing the obligation of contracts, or grant any title of nobility. Article 1, Section 10.
The Beth Messiah Congregation invites you to come and experience a Messianic Roots biblically based congregational fellowship as we observe God's Shabbat in Messiah Yeshua. Praise and worship services begin at 10:30 a.m., followed by an Oneg Shabbat meal, mid-Rosh, and fellowship. Beth Messiah Congregation is located at 8333 Acoma Way in North Denver. You can find out more information by calling 1-800-205-6245. Everyone's welcome, so join us this Shabbat. And Shabbat Shalom, good Sabbath. CINN Stations in Alt salutes our troops. Whether you're for the war or against it, they're still there. These men and women deserve more than our support. They deserve the comfort of home. Send a military care package today. Just type military care package into a search engine, point, and click. Let's show our troops we care. This message from CINN Stations in Alt, wishing Godspeed to our fighting men and women and thanking them for their triumphs and their sacrifices.
Folks, welcome back to Real Truth. We've all got problems, my friends. Everybody's got problems. If your problem is that you have too much money, well, here comes Obamacare to solve your problem. Let's listen to Dick Morris.
Hi. Hope you're having a nice lunch. You know, the joke of the year, maybe of the decade, was when the Obama administration and the Congressional Budget Office said that Obamacare would cut the federal deficit by $100 billion or more over a 10-year period. That was absolutely hysterical. That will stand in the annals of gruesome humor, because what's actually happening is the cost of Obamacare is likely to go crazy. Here's how it's going to work. Right now, about 70% of American workers have health insurance at the job. And Obama said that that would continue under Obamacare. Well, he won't, because those health insurance policies average $6,000 per person and $13,000 for a family of four. If employers decide to drop the insurance coverage of their employees, under Obamacare, they can do so. They can pay a $2,000 fine per employee, and then the employee will get his insurance from the insurance exchanges that Obama's setting up with the federal subsidies so they don't have to pay more than 10% of their income in health insurance costs. So what's going to happen is that employers, particularly small businesses, are going to say, well, I don't want to spend $13,000 or $7,000. I'd rather spend the $2,000 and just take the fine and send them to get their insurance coverage under the insurance exchanges. Right now, these businesses don't drop their employees because they want to offer health insurance to them as an incentive to get good workers and because they like them and for industrial relations. But under the new program, if they deny coverage, the feds will pick it up. So what's going to happen now is that tens of millions of people are going to find their job dropping them from insurance and sending them to these insurance exchanges. Now, that's bad news for the feds, and it's bad news for the individual covered. For the person covered, they would no longer get free insurance or insurance with a small contribution that they might have to make at their current workplace. They either pay the entire cost of the insurance, or if they make less than, say, $70,000, they get a sliding scale of government reimbursement. But the scale only kicks in after you're spending about 10% of your income on health insurance. So you really are being sentenced to spend 10% of your income on insurance that you're now basically getting for either free or for very little. And from the point of view of the taxpayers, these tens of millions of people are going to come on the insurance rolls, and the federal government will have to subsidize them because of the subsidy that we talked about. So this tab is likely to run $400 to $600 billion more over a 10-year period than Obama has estimated. So it's going to add almost $500 billion to the federal budget deficit. Essentially, what it does is it transfers the cost of providing health insurance from the employer to the policyholder and the taxpayer, which is a terrific thing to do at a time when we're running a $1.5 trillion federal deficit. You know, the more you learn about Obamacare, the more you realize that the fundamental task of the next president and the next Congress is to repeal this thing before it absolutely destroys the American healthcare system and our economy to boot. So thanks for listening, and let's get to work on doing that.
Yes, indeed, my friends. Let's get to work on doing that. What kind of president would Mitt Romney be? Well, I don't know, but I know he wouldn't be Barack Obama. Item from the Economic Collapse blog. What is the second half of 2012 going to bring? Are things going to get even worse than they are now? Well, unfortunately, that appears to be more likely with each passing day. I will admit I'm extremely concerned about the second half of 2012. Historically, a financial crisis is much more likely to begin in the fall than during any other season of the year. Just think about it. The stock market crash of 1929 happened in the fall. Black Monday happened on October 19th, 1987. The financial crisis of 2008 started in the fall. There just seems to be something about the fall that brings out the worst in financial markets. But, of course, there's not a stock market crash every year, so are there specific reasons why we should be extremely concerned about what's coming this year? Yes, There are. The ingredients for a perfect storm are slowly coming together. And in the months ahead, we could very well see the next wave of the economic collapse strike. Sadly, we've never, ever come close to recovering from the last recession, and this next crisis might end up being more painful than the last one. The following are 17 reasons to be extremely concerned about the second half of 2012. 1. Historical trends. A recent IMF research paper by Luke Lavin and Fabian Valencia showed that a banking crisis is far more likely to start in September than in any other month. 2. J.P. Morgan. Do you remember back in May when J.P. Morgan announced it would be taking a $2 billion trading loss on some derivative trades gone bad? Well, the New York Times is now reporting that the real figure could reach $9 billion, but nobody really knows for sure. At some point, is J.P. Morgan going to need a bailout? If so, what is it going to do to the U.S. financial system? 3. Derivatives. Last week, Moody's downgraded the credit rating of 15 major global banks. As a result, a number of them have been required to post billions of dollars in additional collateral against derivatives exposure. Citigroup's two-notch long-term, I'm not going to go through that, my friends. That's boring even me. Number 4. Leap/E2020 warning. Leap/E2020 has issued a red alert for the global financial system for this fall. They're warning that the second half of 2012 will represent a major infection point for the global economic system. 5. Increasing pessimism. One recent survey of corporate executives found that only 20% of them expect the global economy to improve over the next 12 months, and 48% of them expect the global economy to get worse over the next 12 months. Number 6, Spain. The Spanish financial system is basically a total nightmare at this point. Moody's recently downgraded Spanish debt to one level above junk status, and earlier this week, Moody's downgraded the credit rating of 28 major Spanish banks. According to CNBC, Spain's short-term borrowing costs are now about 3 times higher than they were just 1 month ago. 7. Italy. The situation in Italy continues to deteriorate, and many analysts believe it could be one of the next dominoes to fall. Number 8. Greece. I've written extensively about the financial nightmare that is unfolding in Greece. Unemployment has soared past the 20% mark. Youth unemployment is above 50%. The Greek economy has contracted by close to 25% over the past 4 years. And now Greek politicians are saying a third bailout package may be necessary. 9. Cyprus. The tiny island nation of Cyprus has become the 5th member of the Eurozone to formally request a bailout. This is yet another sign that the Eurozone is rapidly falling apart. 10. Germany. German Chancellor Angela Merkel continues to promote an austerity path for Europe, and she continues to maintain her very firm position against any kind of Eurozone debt sharing. 11. Bank runs. Every single day, hundreds of millions of dollars is being pulled out of banks in southern Europe. Much of that money is being transferred to banks in northern Europe. Number 12. Preparations for the collapse of the Eurozone. Number 13. Global lending is slowing down. My friends, see the rest of these items on my Facebook page. We'll be right back.
The Beth Messiah Congregation invites you to come and experience a Messianic Roots biblically based congregational fellowship as we observe God's Shabbat in Messiah Yeshua. Praise and worship services begin at 10:30 a.m., followed by an Oneg Shabbat meal, mid-Rosh, and fellowship. Beth Messiah Congregation is located at 8333 Acoma Way in North Denver. You can find out more information by calling 1-800-205-6245. Everyone's welcome, so join us this Shabbat. And Shabbat Shalom, good Sabbath.
An emergency preparedness plan for your home, car, school, and office is a must. Knowing how to store water safely, survive extreme temperature changes, provide reliable shelter, first aid, and sanitation is critical. Knowing where to get the best lights, radios, and other supplies is easy. Ferris Survival, located at 3366 South Broadway, is a professional, reputable, full-service business providing realistic preparedness supplies at affordable prices. Stop by, go online, or call 303-781-0343, 866-781-0343. If you're spending hard-earned money on supplements, you need to know about BioSuperfood because you're probably shortchanging yourself on nutrition and value. If you're buying products claiming to provide DNA protection from radiation, you're getting ripped off by inferior copycat products because there's no other product developed or researched like BioSuperfood. BioSuperfood is one complete superfood product that addresses radiation poisoning, allergies, arthritis, diabetes, high blood pressure, and other degenerative diseases. BioSuperfood helps digestion, decreases pain and inflammation, increases flexibility, improves heart health and brain function. It boosts your immune system and even inhibits the AIDS virus in cancerous cells. It's an antibacterial, antifungal, and anti-inflammatory. BioSuperfood is not another supplement. It's a whole food and contains over 5,000 nutrients. Call now and ask about your special discounts on your BioSuperfood purchase at 303-257-7576. That's 303-257-7576 or biosuperfood@hotmail.com.
On Shabbat, July the 7th, Beth Messiah Congregation invites you to join them in praise and worship with Sue Samuels, a Hebraic root singer from Rhode Island. Sue and her husband Brian have been sharing music together for over 15 years, and together they have 3 CDs. Again, the date is July the 7th at 10:45. That's at 8333 Acoma Way, Beth Messiah Congregation, and we'll see you there.
Folks, welcome back. We are going to listen to a brief video. This comes from Fox News. Obamacare cronyism. Michelle Malkin, Stuart Barney. Let's listen to what they have to say for 4 minutes.
Came along with a special fund called the Center for Medicare and Medicaid Innovation. So far, 26 grants have been awarded for a total of $125 million. It seems like individuals or groups tied to the president made out pretty well. Joining us now is Michelle Malkin, conservative columnist, who joins us on Varney & Company. Michelle, always a pleasure to have you. Thank you very much. You have an example of one of these grants which went to, I'm going to say, a crony of the president or his family. What's the story?
Yeah, it's a $6 million grant that went to the University of Chicago Medical Center. White House watchdog Keith Koffler first pointed to this late last week. And it's announced on the CMS Center for Innovation website. As you said, there were 26 who won, and I think it's notable that 3,000 applied, and it's worth raising eyebrows about the crony connections between the University of Chicago Medical Center and the White House, because as I reported in Culture of Corruption, 3 or 4 years ago, that program, which is better known as the Urban Health Initiative, was overseen by Michelle Obama. David Axelrod, who was, of course, is a big PR firm in Chicago, was paid an unknown amount of money to consult for this program and to try and sell it to impoverished South Side patients as some sort of improvement of health care, when there are professional medical organizations that have been screaming about it as a patient dumping program.
Is that a strong enough and a direct enough link between the recipient of the $6 million and the first family and their former work in Chicago? Is that a strong, direct link? Is it?
Well, there's another dot that we need to connect, actually 2 dots, because the man who now runs the program that Michelle Obama helped found at the University of Chicago is a man named Eric Whitaker, who many close observers of this White House know is the president's best golfing buddy. He's been with him on practically every Hawaii vacation that the Obamas have had since the beginning of this administration. And Obama, by his own testimony, recommended Eric Whitaker for his job as a top health official under their mutual former friend, Rod Blagojevich, who, of course, is now in jail here in Colorado for all of his pay-for-play corruption.
Did the gentleman you just mentioned get money directly and personally?
Well, he oversees the Urban Health Initiative, and he's the one who will have oversight of this money that comes from Obamacare. The other thing I think that's very important to point out about this patient dumping program is that they will be getting this money to help establish a centralized database of medical records. And it is this provision in Obamacare that is now under direct challenge, along with the individual mandate, as something that is an unconstitutional breaching of privacy. And I think this is a very much concern when you've got these cronies developing these electronic databases and providing unprecedented access to people's private medical records, when we know that this administration has its hands all over all sorts of digging into private citizens' records to smear them during this upcoming election. I think it's very troubling, Stuart.
Strong stuff, Michelle Malkin, as always, and we always thank you and always appreciate you being with us, Michelle.
It is strong stuff, my friends, and it is what Obama is. It is what he is. He comes from the most corrupt political state in the Union, Illinois. He's part of a machine. He's part of a cabal. He's part of a group of gangsters, if you want to call them that. It's troubling, and it's bad news for us. Item from Reuters. Al-Qaeda-linked Islamists in Timbuktu broke down the door to a 15th century mosque on Monday that locals believed had to stay shut until the end of the world, defying the international calls to halt the destruction of holy sites in the UNESCO-listed city. In a third day of attacks on historic and religious landmarks that UNESCO has called wanton destruction, the Islamists targeted the ancient Sidi Yahya Mosque as they tried to erase traces of what they regard as un-Islamic idolatry. In legend, it is said that the main gate of Sidi Yahya Mosque will not be opened until the last day of the world, said Alpha Abdul Hali, the town imam, to Reuters by telephone. Yet 8 Islamist fighters had smashed down the door to the mosque early on Monday, saying they wanted to destroy the mystery of the ancient entrance, he said. They offered me 50,000 CFA, that's about $100, for repairs, but I refused to take the money, saying that what they did is irreparable. Islamists of the Ansar Dine group said the centuries-old shrines of the local Sufi version of Islam in Timbuktu are idolatrous, unquote. My friends, civilized people act like civilized people. Those who are not civilized act like this. Item from the Economic Policy Journal. Although much of Obamacare doesn't kick in until 2014, some important elements kick in before the election, which will help keep the masses confused about the plan and paint Obama as a fighter for the people. Tony Lee explains what occurs before the election. July 2012, insurance companies send rebate checks to consumers. According to the White House's website, quote, consumers will get rebates if their insurance companies do not spend at least 80% of their premium dollars on medical care and quality improvements, unquote. When people receive rebate checks, they will inevitably view the law a bit more favorably after receiving this tangible benefit. August 2012, additional preventive services for women covered. In August, Obamacare will impact women voters. Most insurance plans will cover preventative care services for women, including well woman visits and contraception. Obama will then exploit this to rev up his phony war on women rhetoric with the help of a complicit mainstream media. October 2012, electronic medical records become implemented. My friends, it goes on and on. I invite you to go to my Facebook page, read it. Read it, my friends, and weep. We'll be back.
Why do the nations rage, and the people plot a vain thing? The kings of the earth set themselves, and the rulers take counsel together against the Lord and against his anointed, saying, let us break their bonds in pieces, and cast away their cords from us. Psalm 1, verses 1 through 3.
Holy is the Lord.
Article 4. The right of the people to be secure in their persons, houses, papers, and effects against unreasonable searches and seizures shall not be violated, and no warrant shall be issued but upon probable cause, supported by oath or affirmation, and particularly describing the places to be searched and the persons or things to be seized. Whether you're in automotive, sporting goods, hardware, health, wellness, electrical, electronics, construction, carpet cleaning, legal, or animal care, and offer exceptional customer service and provide quality services or goods, you're honest, reliable, and professional. If you have a business, we have the customers. Let us put you in touch with our loyal, supportive, and dedicated listeners today. They're waiting to hear from you. It's inexpensive. It's effective. Call KHNC at 1-800-205-6245.
Restore Health and Counseling salutes the men and women in uniform who've answered the call for our freedoms. Let's give them the hero's welcome they deserve as they have fought hard to restore peace. America's troops are our angels of protection, so stand up and salute them proudly. That's from Restore Health and Counseling at 4705 Paris Street, serving Northeast Denver with complete substance abuse counseling for adolescents to adult and for private as well as professional drug, alcohol screening and treatment and rehabilitation. Visit us at www.rhctherapy.com or call 303-373-1188.
My friends, we are back. Item from Reuters, Dateline, Jerusalem. Israel's National Holocaust Memorial has amended its account of Pope Pius XII's actions during World War II, after the original text upset the Vatican by implying he did too little to try to rescue Jews from the Nazis. Stop! My friends, this takes the cake. This takes the cake. For approximately, give or take a little bit, 20 centuries, the Vatican hunted Jews, slandered Jews, did everything they could to convert or destroy the Jewish people. During World War II, Pope Pius XII did basically nothing, as Jews were marched by under his window to Nazi death camps. And now the Vatican is ticked because a memorial makes them look a little bit bad? That's incredible enough. The fact that any Jew gives a rat's ass about it is doubly incredible. And yet Israel has amended its account of Pope Pius XII's actions. My friends, we have a concept in Judaism called tshuva. It means basically, roughly, repenting, apologizing to God for what you've done wrong, sincerely, from the heart, vowing not to do it again, cleansing your soul, purifying yourself of your sins. Why does the Vatican not want to do tshuva? Instead of putting it all out on the table and saying, mea culpa, and asking God to forgive them, instead they're pressuring Israel to amend the account of Pope Pius. At some time in the future, my friend, there comes an accounting for each of us. Whether we're individuals, groups, churches, synagogues, everyone stands before the Lord and is judged eventually. Let's continue. Yad Vashem, the museum and memorial in Jerusalem, said on Sunday, its new display acknowledged that the Pope's defenders say his neutrality in the war gave church members more freedom and allowed them to carry out some secret rescue activities. But it said the text mentioned that critics still see Pius as guilty of doing too little, calling him a moral failure. The panel in the museum now also quotes from the Pope's Christmas radio address in 1942, in which he refers to, quote, hundreds of thousands of persons who, without any fault on their part, sometimes not only because of their nationality or ethnic origin, unquote, were killed. But it notes he did not explicitly name the Jews. A Yad Vashem spokeswoman said the display was amended due to new research findings and said that it now, quote, better shows the complexity of the issue. Stop! How dare you? How dare you? Mass murder. And the issue is a complex one? Shame on this spokeswoman. Shame on Yad Vashem. Shame on Israel. And shame on the Vatican. Shame on the Vatican and on Pope Pius, wherever his soul resides at this moment. There are some stains that cannot be washed away. There are some sins that cannot and will not be forgiven. And if this is a sin that can be forgiven, it cannot be forgiven until the person who committed it, until the Vatican steps forward, admits it, and asks forgiveness. I'll be back tomorrow with more Real Truth. My friends, I'll see you in 23 hours. Hasta luego.